इसको होल्डर होगा इसका और नहीं सारे इसमें डीजल कनेक्शन तो यहाँ पर खा दो सब हाँ चलो ये है वो बताएंगे कि ऐसी चीज की होती है बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम नहमदुहु व नुसल्ली अला रसूलिल करीम अल्लाहुम्मा सल्लि अला सय्यिदिना मुहम्मद व अला आलि सय्यिदिना मुहम्मद कमा सल्लैता अला सय्यिदिना इब्राहीम व अला आलि सय्यिदिना इब्राहीम इन्नका हमीदुम मजीद अल्लाहुम्मा बारिक अला सय्यिदिना मुहम्मद व अला आलि सय्यिदिना मुहम्मद कमा बारकता अला सय्यिदिना इब्राहीम व अला आलि सय्यिदिना इब्राहीम हमीदुम मजीद अस्तगफिरुल्लाह 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 ला हौला वला कुव्वता इल्ला बिल्लाहिल अलिय्यिल अज़ीम Respected elders, brothers, friends, ladies, first of all, I would like to thank Maulana Muhim Saheb, Maulana Imam Saheb for organizing this program. Jazakallah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala benefit us through the love of Rasul Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Shamaa-il Tirmidhi is about the features, the characteristics, akhlaq, manners, behavior of Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Now you understand why we need to study Shamaa-il. So we can be like our Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. If every Muslim becomes a carbon copy of their Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, they can bring so much good to the whole world, inshallah. We have to follow in the footsteps of Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. We have to love him. We have to obey him. We have to make him our role model. For this purpose, we have courses like this. Now, Shamaa-il Tirmidhi is a large kitab. It's not possible to teach it in one day. It's taught in Madaris, Darul Ulooms, throughout the year, with several lessons going into every detail. I studied Shamaa-il Tirmidhi twice. Once in Darul Bari in the year 1984, under the tutorship of my Hazrat, Shaykhul Hadith, Qutb-e-Bataniya, Hazrat Aqdas, Maulana Muhammad Yusuf Mutala Saheb, Nawwarallahu Markatuhu, wa Barada Marjahu. And to put a smile on your face, make you happy, Maulana Muhim Saheb, gave me this good news when we entered the masjid, that when we sat in the room for a cup of tea, Maulana Muhim Saheb read out a message to me that one of his friends saw Hazrat Maulana Muhammad Yusuf Mutala Saheb Nawwarallahu Markatuhu in his dream last night. And Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said that I am coming to you Shamaa-il course and tell everyone that I am going to test you after every session. Now, this is the tawajjuh of Hazrat Nawwarallahu Markatuhu. And this is also an indication that this session or this program is being talked about in Malay A'la. Malay A'la, Malaika Karubiyyin, and those high above the heavens, the arwah of Anbiya, Awliya, Siddiqeen, Shuhada, Salihin. Their souls are in Jannat roaming around. They are informed of the events that take place around the world, and these type of majalis are looked upon from high above the heavens, like we look at the stars, because there is so much nur and roshni and light in these majalis that the world is in darkness. But wherever there is this type of majalis of zikr, majalis of dars, majalis of tadlis, they have nur in them, and the Malay A'la look at these majalis like we look at the stars, full of nur in the darkness of the night. So there is good basharat in there that inshallah Hazrat is happy with the people of Oldham and is happy with this program, and it's an indication that Hazrat's tawajjuh and attention is towards this program. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala benefit us through the tawajjuhat of Hazrat. I studied it with Hazrat, and Hazrat used to teach us, he used to make tireless effort in teaching us. Amazing. We studied the whole Tirmidhi Sharif with Hazrat. And at the end of the year, Hazrat was teaching Shamaa-il, and he was happy to teach us after Fajr. And that session after Fajr would be very lively. Straight after Fajr, we go in the Bukhari class, and Hazrat would start teaching us Shamaa-il Tirmidhi, and then Hazrat would have tea prepared for us And then tea and biscuits would come. We would stop, we would have tea and biscuits with Hazrat. And then after we finish, and that starts again. And he teaches for quite a long time, maybe 1.5, 2 hours. And that would be the some Fajr of summer, 5 o'clock, 5:30. So after the long lesson, we will go to rest for a bit, and then we will go to our lessons at 8:45. So we studied Shamaa-il Tirmidhi under our Hazrat Namallahu. And our Hazrat studied it under Hazrat Mufti Muzaffar Hussain Saheb, the Nazim of Saharanpur, Madrasa Mazahir. He studied it under Mufti Saeed Ahmad Saheb, and he studied it under Maulana Abdul Latif Saheb, and his Ustad is Hazrat Maulana Khalil Ahmad Saharanpuri, and his Ustad is Maulana Abdul Qayyum Burhanvi, and his Ustad is Shah Muhammad Ishaq, and his Ustad is Shah Abdul Aziz, and his Ustad is Shah Waliullah. And his sanad and chain direct up to Imam Tirmidhi Rahmatullahi is mentioned in his book Firuzul Haramain. And from Imam Tirmidhi Rahmatullahi to Nabi Kareem Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, all the chains are mentioned in Shamaa-il Tirmidhi. We won't be going through those chains because we are going to read the Khulasa. Khulasa means a summary of the book. We'll only cover the ahadith, the features of Nabi Kareem Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. I studied Shamaa-il Tirmidhi for a second time under Shaykh Yunus in the following year, 1985. When I went to Saharanpur and studied Dawra Hadith again, so I studied Shamaa-il Tirmidhi for a second time with Hazrat Shaykh Yunus. And that was not in a formal lesson, it was informal lesson. After Asr, we would have free time. So, students would go around for a stroll, cup of tea, walk around here and there, food. I would, after relieving myself, having a cup of tea or whatever, I would go to Hazrat Shaykh Yunus Saheb and sit in his room until Maghrib Namaz, just to sit with him. So one day he said, "Hey, you come here and sit, you might as well read some hadith or something." And then he suggested Shamaa-il Tirmidhi, mashallah. And then we started reading Shamaa-il Tirmidhi. I would read the hadith, and Hazrat would comment here and there. I would make notes of that. And this is how I studied Shamaa-il Tirmidhi for a second time with Hazrat Shaykh Yunus Saheb in Saharanpur. This is just to mention to you that Alhamdulillah, our books and our ahadith are connected to Nabi Kareem Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam with a continuous chain, an unbroken chain. We studied from our asatiza, they from there, and this chain goes direct. Every hadith goes direct to Nabi Kareem Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Other mazahib can't provide one single hadith of their Prophet with an unbroken chain. To Isa alayhi salam, to Musa alayhi salam, to Ibrahim alayhi salam, to other prophets. But we have the privilege that all our hadith are connected directly to Nabi Kareem Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. And I give this ijazat to the ulama kiram who are sitting over here and the alimas and apas who have graduated, that you have the permission to narrate Shamaa-il Tirmidhi from me, from my asatiza, and your chain is also connected to Nabi Kareem Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Those who are not alim, you can study, you can become alim, and then you can get ijazat as well, inshallah. Because ijazat hadith has its prerequisite requirements. You have to fulfill those requirements. You have to become an alim, a scholar of hadith, and then you get the ijazat. Anyhow, point number 2. This was my chain where I studied Tirmidhi Sharif from. Point number 2, what is the meaning of Shamaa-il? Shaykh Yusuf al-Nabhani Rahmatullah Alayhi states that Shamaa-il is plural of Shama'il. And Shama'il literally means al-akhlaq wal-taba'i'. Akhlaq, manners, and tabiyat, nature, fitrat. nature of a person is the meaning of Shamaa-il, Jama' Shamaa-il. In Qamus, الشمال أو الشمال بالكسر الطبع يقال رجل كريم الشمائل يعني في أخلاقه ومخالطته. A man of good shama'il meaning good nature, good behavior, and nice and soft in mixing with people and tolerating them and in his behavior with them. Such a person is called Rajulun Karimush Shama'il, a man with good nature, good sense of humor, good behavior, good akhlaq. So Shama'il means akhlaq, adat, atwar, behavior, nature. This is Shama'il. Ash-Shama'ilul Muhammadiyah, the akhlaq, adat, and nature of Hazrat Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam is what we're going to study today, inshallah, throughout the course. In Shamaa-il Tirmidhi, many other books have also been written about akhlaq, adat, and nature of Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Shamaa-il Tirmidhi is one of the earliest ones and most widespread and recognized ones. Imam Tirmidhi has brought in this kitab 400 ahadith throughout 56 abwab and chapters. In the first chapter, he's mentioned 14 ahadith regarding the features of Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wasallam, which we will read in a bit, inshallah. Before we move on, now we understand point number 3, the gharz and the motive of studying Shamaa-il. Why do we study Shamaa-il? In a nutshell, number 1, first reason is التقرب إلى النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم واستجلاب محبته ورضاه بذكر أوصافه وأخلاقه كما كان يتقرب الشعراء إلى الكرام بذكر أوصافهم. We want to draw ourselves closer to our Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam. We want to attract his rida and pleasure, and we want to increase his muhabbat and love by mentioning his awsaf and his akhlaq. And it was the custom of the previous era that the poets, shu'ara, would try to draw themselves closer to the leaders and to the kareem and noble people by composing poetry in their praise. And they would try to bring themselves closer to them. And among the Sahaba as well, we get like Hassan ibn Thabit, who used to compose poetry in praise of Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wasallam, and Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wasallam would be really happy with him. So we talk about our Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam so we can increase his love, bring ourselves closer to him, and attract his pleasure. Number 2, Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wasallam has done us a lot of favors. So, محاولتنا لمكافاته صلى الله عليه وسلم على إحسانه إلينا وإنقاذه إيانا من الظلمات إلى النور. We make an attempt to repay some of the favors of Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wasallam towards us. Through him, Allah and his hard work and effort, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saved us, gave us Iman, Quran, Hadith, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brought us out of zulumat towards the nur, from darknesses to light. So for that reason, we talk about our Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Number 3, when you know the sifat and attributes and akhlaq or kamalat of a person, then you do start to love them. If you're into sports, you support a team, you will have your favorite player in that team, Salah or whoever he is. When you study them, you know about them, you love them. So, Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam Shamaa-il akhlaq, adat, bring in us the love of Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wasallam, and this will result when that muhabbat and love increases. This will result in kamal iman, takmeel iman. It will perfect our iman and belief. The more we love our Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, the more perfect and complete our iman will be. That's in the hadith. لا يؤمن أحدكم حتى أكون أحب إليه من والده وولده والناس أجمعين. So we need to bring within us the love of Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wasallam in order to perfect and complete our iman. This is why we study his Shama'il. And number 4, اتباعه واقتداؤه فيما يمكنه. We want to follow him and do his ittiba' in whatever is possible for us. For example, كسخائه وحيائه وحلمه وتواضعه وزهده وعبادته. For example, his sakhawat, generosity, his haya, modesty, his hilm, forbearance, his sabr, patience, his tawadu, humility, his zuhd, abstinence from the luxuries of this world, asceticism, and his ibadat, his worship. When we read all this in his Shamaa-il, we try to follow him as much as we can. This ittiba' and iqtida is one of the aims behind studying the Shamaa-il of Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Now we move on to the kitab. Maulana Imran Saheb will read, and I will do a little bit of explanation of the kitab. Now this kitab, Khulasatul Shamaa-il, which you have in front of you, we read a little bit about page 17 about the authors. पढ़ लो authors के बारे में.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. About the authors, Imam Abu Isa Tirmidhi, one of the greatest names in the science of hadith. Imam Abu Isa Muhammad Imam Abu Isa Muhammad ibn Isa ibn Sawa al-Tirmidhi was born in 210 after Hijri in Tirmiz, a small city in South Uzbekistan. He traveled far and wide in his pursuit of the prophetic hadith and narrated from Imam Bukhari, Muslim, Abu Dawud, Qutayba ibn Sa'id, and Muhammad ibn Bashar, among many others. Many great hadith scholars also benefited from him and were honored to be among his students. He was renowned for his piety, abstinence, and remarkable memory. His lofty status can be gauged from the accolade of his one teacher, Imam Bukhari, who said to him, "The benefit I have taken from you is more than what you have benefited from me."
Because Imam Tirmidhi had a very inquisitive mind. He used to ask a lot of questions. And when you ask a lot of questions, the teacher also has to jog his memory and give proper answers. So Imam Bukhari is the Ustad and Imam Tirmidhi is the student. And the Ustad is saying to the student, I benefited from you more than what you benefited from me. So, Imam Bukhari wouldn't say this to anyone. This is Imam Tirmidhi's maqam. And also Imam Tirmidhi was very wide read and he had lots of asatidha of his own as well. And he had a lot of knowledge. Imam Bukhari used to benefit from that as well.
Among his famous works are Shamaa-il al-Muhammadiyah and Al-Jami al-Kabir.
Al-Jami al-Kabir is his sunnah.
One of the 6 major hadith collections more commonly known as Sunan al-Tirmidhi. Imam Abu Isa al-Tirmidhi passed away in 297 after Hijri, leaving behind a great legacy of students and unmatchable works.
He was born in 210, died in 297. Even in 87. Imam Bukhari was born in 194 and died in 256. So Imam Bukhari was how many years older than Imam Tirmidhi? 16 years older. That's why Imam Bukhari is Ustad and Imam Tirmidhi is the student. This is a little bit. Imam Tirmidhi Rahmatullah had like Imam Bukhari, had a computer chip memory. In his old age, he became blind. He was going somewhere and whilst traveling, in one place, he ducked down, lowered his head. People asked him, why do you lower your head? And he said, there's a tree over here, and we normally duck down here when we pass by. And they said, no, there's no tree here. Imam Tirmidhi was shocked. He said, no. He said, get off the right, inquire. And they got off the right, camped over there, and asked the locals. And they said, yes, there was a tree over here, they are cutting down. Look at his memory. And this is a tree. And even after becoming blind, he knows he's passing by, and his memory is so sharp. So Imam Tirmidhi was Imam Tirmidhi. His mazar is in Uzbekistan. People go there. Inshallah, one day we'll go together to that area and we'll visit Imam Tirmidhi as well, and Imam Bukhari as well, and all that area, inshallah. Clear? Now, this book is the Khulasa of Shamaa-il. Who did the Khulasa of it? Shaykh Muhammad Abdul al-Qattani. Unke halat padlo.
Shaykh Muhammad Abdul al-Qattani was born in 1302 after Hijri in Fez, Morocco.
1302. That's roughly 100 years, just over 100 years. Clear?
He received his early education by his illustrious father, Shaykh Abdul Kabir al-Qattani, and his brother Shaykh Muhammad ibn Abdul Kabir, before moving on to study under great scholars at the renowned Institute Al-Qayrouan.
Al-Qayrouan. Renowned Institute of Qayrouan. You know what is Qayrouan University? This university is the oldest university in the whole world. It was established even before Al-Azhar in Cairo. And who was it established by? A lady, Fatima al-Fihriya al-Qayrawaniya. She made this university. And at this moment, it's still functioning. And Hazrat was born in 1302, and he studied there in that university. So, Alhamdulillah, we have that privilege of having the oldest university in the world. Chaliye?
His thirst for knowledge inspired him to travel across the different countries, cities of Morocco and beyond to Egypt and Syria, where he benefited from the knowledge of many scholars. He also benefited immensely from scholars who had come for Hajj during his travels to the Haramain. His extensive travels also allowed for many students to benefit from him likewise, and he selflessly imparted his knowledge wherever he traveled. Towards the end of his life, Shaykh Muhammad Abdul Hayy experienced a number of difficulties from the authorities in Morocco, who ordered for all his property to be seized, which included his unique library comprising thousands of rare books and manuscripts. He moved to Nice, France, where he passed away in 1382.
1382 is roughly 1962. So around about 1962. So this Khulasa was compiled by him. And this is the Arabic of the Khulasa. Munyatul Sahib, Khulasatul Shamaa-il. So we'll move on, and inshallah, wherever there is need, I'll read from here as well. Hazrat writes here, Alhamdulillahi haqqa hamdihi, wassalatu wassalamu ala khayri anbiya'ihi, wa a'badihi, wa ala alihim wa sahabatihim al-qadat, wa sa'iri atba'i wa sadat. وبعد فيقول محمد عبد الحي بن عبد الكبير القتاني الحسني الإدريسي إنه لما يسر الله سبحانه وتعالى من محض المن والفضل بالوصل بعد الفصل ووفقنا لختم كتاب الشمائل وصفات سيد الأوائل والأواخر سيدنا محمد النبي الأعظم والرسول الفرد الأكرم صلى الله عليه وسلم، وذلك في يوم الأربعاء 28 رمضان سنة 27 و300 وألف. حبب إلي أن أعيد للحاضرين ومن حضر درس الختم خاصة خلاصة ما تحت كل باب من أبوابه النيف وستين غرر تلك الخصائص، وخاص تلك الغرر ذات الفضل المبين، فأمليتها مهذبة محبرة لا متكلفة ولا مبعثرة، فرغب إلي بعض الحاضرين ممن شاقه سماع تلك السمات التي فضل بها على صلى الله عليه وسلم على العالمين أن أدونها كذلك، فوقع طلبه مني موقع الاستحسان رجاء فضلي مبلغ الخير الذي هنالك، فدونته اختصارا لطيفا سهل الفتح منيفا، أبدلت عبارة الراوية المعلقة بعبارة مبدولة وحافظت على جوهرة المعنى التي هي بدلالة الإعجاز مشمولة. So this is Muqaddama, and then he mentioned his sanad as well, and then he started the first chapter. चलिए यहाँ खुलासे का पढ़ो इसको जरा.
His physical description and the authority
यहाँ
of
पहले ये हो गया ना खुलासा. In the name of Allah, most merciful, most kind, all praise to Allah, as His right is to be praised. Blessings and peace be upon His prophets, their families, their companions, and those who follow them. Now we move on to his physical description. Yeah.
his physical description on the authority of Sayyidina Anas ibn Malik radiallahu anhu, who was heard to say, number one, the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam was neither very tall nor short, neither was he pale white nor dark. He did not have very curly nor very straight hair. Allah sent him as a prophet at the age of 40. He stayed in Mecca for 10 years and in Medina for 10 years. Allah took him at the age of 60, where there were barely 20 white hairs in his head and beard. Our master,
The hadith is clear. He was neither very tall nor short. He wasn't very tall, like some people stand out in their height. And he wasn't short either. He was of a medium height, like normal human beings of that time. Hazrat Umar was very tall. Sayyidina Abu Bakr was a bit tall as well. But Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wasallam was not that tall. Neither was he pale, white, nor dark. Pale white, like tuna, like milk. Milk is pale white. Nabi Pak sallallahu alayhi wasallam's color was not like that. Right? And he wasn't dark of dark complex, like our colored brothers are. Rather, he was in the middle. The Arabs, right? Asians. Alhamdulillah, we Asians are nice color. The white men have to go on holiday to get that tan. Well, alhamdulillah, the Nabi Pak sallallahu alayhi wasallam's color was very beautiful. One riwayat will say, Kana azhar al-lawn. His color was shining. Chamak his color. So, Nabi Pak sallallahu alayhi wasallam's color, he was not pale, nor was he dark. He did not have very curly hair, nor very straight hair. Very curly, like Habshi brothers, like a spring, pull it, and plum goes back. Right? That spring hair, he didn't have that type of hair. Extremely curly. Nor was it straight like ours. Rather, there were slight waves in them. When you comb them, you could see, like when water of a pond is sucked in and still, but you throw a stone in it and the waves form in the water. Similarly, his hair had beautiful waves in them. That's very beautiful hair. His hair was long and they had a little bit of curl in them. And Allah sent him at the age of 40, meaning made him a Nabi. He stayed in Makkah for 10 years. These 10 years is Mujaz. Sometimes they reduce that qasr. So instead of 13, they mention the nearest figure. The nearest figure is 10. Right? Like when they say Hazrat Aisha's marriage was done when she was 6 and consummated when she was 9, they mention the nearest figure. She was just over 6 years and a few months. And consummated just over 9 years and a few months. Maybe close to 10. So they mentioned the nearest figure. She was a grown-up woman. She wasn't a small child. Right? She knew how to do the housework and cook food and everything. That's why she started living with Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam. She used to do everything after that. So many times they mention the lesser amount and mention the nearest amount. So he stayed in Makkah for 10 years. How long did he stay in reality in Makkah Mukarramah for? 30. And in Medina for 10 years. This is the exact amount. He stayed in Medina for 10. Allah took him at the age of 60. Again, the nearest figure. He was how old when he died? 63. Where there were barely 20 hairs in his head and beard. Meaning, even though he was 63, he had gone through a lot of worries and griefs and lack of food and sleep and restlessness, but his hair never turned grey. हमारे तो जरा प्रॉब्लम आए तो बात सफेद हो जाए. Nabi Pak sallallahu alaihi wasallam never turned grey. He had barely 20 hair, a few hair in his dadi bacha. and few on the sideburns. Otherwise, his beard was black, his hair was all black, and we still find some of that hair around the world because in Hajjatul Wada, when he had his head shaved, he distributed those hair among the Sahaba. And from there, some of his hair are found around the world. So, Nabi Pak Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was extremely, extremely beautiful, good looking. His appearance was really nice, as we read in the following hadith. Again, hadith number 2.
Our Master Anas radiallahu anh, and others who described him say that he was of medium height, neither tall nor short.
Yeah.
His complexion was the color which is praised by the Arabs, white inclining to redness.
White inclining to redness. That's light tan on there. Chaliye.
His noble hair was neither curly like the hair of Africans, nor dark and soft like the hair of the Persians. Allah sent him as a prophet when he was 40. He lived in Mecca for 10 years and then the same, and he lived more in Medina. Allah made him die at the age of 60. If we round down, otherwise,
if we round down, this is a round figure. If you look inside, round.
Otherwise, it is established that he died when he was 63. May my soul be his ransom. When there were not a single white hair in his noble head and beard, not counting what was in the hair below his lip and temples. He was broad-shouldered, i.e., wide at the upper part of the back, and had a broad chest.
Broad shoulders. Some people's shoulders go down, fall down, but he had broad shoulders, and his chest was broad as well. Chaliye.
He had a handsome, soft body and was balanced in both height and build.
Handsome and soft body, and was balanced in both height and build. Okay, medium height, and his body was medium as well. Chaliye.
He had fully fleshed palms and feet.
The palms, they had full flesh in them. Okay, and in feet as well, full flesh in the feet as well. Chaliye.
He had a large head and large joints.
Large head meaning relatively. He didn't have a small head, he had a large head, and relatively, and large joints. The joints, the wrist, the elbows, the shoulders, knees. When they are large, meaning he's strong. His build is strong. When bones and joints are large, that means you are a strong personality. So he was a very strong personality.
Such as the shoulders and knees. He had hair which ran from his chest to his noble navel like a fine line.
He didn't have excess hair on his chest and shoulders and forearms and upper arms. His hair, his chest was relatively free of hair. He did have one line of hair going down from his throat right to his navel. Other than that, his chest and other areas were free from it. Like when a newborn baby doesn't have excess hair on the body, just that which is needed, like on the head, on the eyebrows, and whatever. But the other hair, he didn't have excess hair on the body. This is to say, Chaliye.
His like has not been seen before or after him in any aspect. He did not have a wide face, but he was somewhat round.
You missed something. How I missed something? So ये पेज पूरा पढ़ लिया. चलो हाँ हो गया. His like has not been seen before him or after him in any aspect. This is the hadith of Sayyiduna Ali karramallahu wajhahu. Sayyiduna Ali karramallahu wajhahu said, لم أرى قبله ولا بعده مثله صلى الله عليه وسلم. I have not seen before him or after him anyone like him sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So Shaykh is doing the tarjama of that. Ali karramallahu wajhahu.
The white and black of his eye was very intense. The hair of his eyelashes was long. He did not have hair over his entire noble body, but only on his face, i.e. his beard.
He did not have a white face, but it was somewhat round. The white and black of his eyes were very intense. The eyes were whiteness. That was very intensely white. And the black pupil, some have blue, green, other colors. His pupils were black in color.
The hair of his
eyelashes were long. Eyelashes, when they are long, is beautiful. So his eyelashes were long and beautiful.
He did not have hair over his entire noble body, but only on his face, i.e. his beard, shins, and forearms and shoulders. When he turned his entire body. He did not just turn his neck.
When he turned around, someone called him, Ya Rasulullah. So just look like this. He would turn around to him. Yes. What do you want to say? He paid attention fully when someone called him.
He was the most beautiful of people by heart, as it was free of every vice.
His heart was a golden heart, pure heart. He did not keep any malice, hatred, rancor, jealousy in his heart or any vice. He had the most pure, he was the most beautiful of people by heart.
He was the truest of people in speech, softest in nature, and noblest in company. Whoever saw him suddenly trembled due to his awe. Whoever mingled with him loved everything about him.
And this is from Hazrat Ali. من خالطه معرفة أحبه من رآه بديهة هابه ومن خالطه معرفة أحبه. Whoever saw him suddenly would hold him in awe. But when he would interact with him, talk to him, he would begin to love him, because of his personality.
He was great in himself and esteemed in the eyes of people.
كان فخما مفخما. فخما, great in himself, and مفخما, esteemed by others. Everybody used to hold him in high esteem, friends or foes.
His noble face shone like the full moon. He was above what was above his temples, i.e., his forehead, was wide. His eyebrows were arched and complete, not joined together. Between his eyebrows was a vein which appeared red when he was angry.
Between his eyebrows was a vein. When something happened, he wouldn't get angry for himself. But if someone broke a command of Allah, violated any sanctity of a religious instruction, then he would be really angry. Nobody would withstand his anger. So when he would be really angry, then this vein would erupt between, and it would start boiling, and we would realize that he's really angry.
He had a moderately long nose with a fine tip. There was a light that covered it, so that someone who did not look carefully would think he had a high bridge with a raised top.
He had a moderately long nose with a fine tip, an aquiline nose. His nose was not flat, it was not big, a long nose with a fine tip.
He had a lot of hair on his noble beard without.
There was a line that covered the tip of the nose, so that someone who did not look carefully would think that he had a high bridge with a raised top.
He had a lot of hair on his noble beard.
His noble beard was full, a large beard. It was dense, and it was covered his chest. So he had a very nice, beautiful beard.
Without rising up onto his face and cheeks.
He wouldn't rise on his face and cheeks. So it was from below, but it was full and dense.
His cheeks were not protruding. He had a wide mouth, and there was a gap between his teeth. And
cheeks were not protruding. They were not coming out. Right? They were not coming out. And he had a wide mouth. So when he would speak clearly.
And there was a gap between his teeth or incisors.
The teeth, the front two teeth, there was a little bit of gap. When he would speak, people could see some noor coming out from between those two teeth. That was, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made him like that.
He had fine hair between the chest and navel. His noble neck was like ivory and pure like silver. His limbs were proportionate. He was stalwart without being loose-limbed. His abdomen and chest were level.
Meaning he didn't have a belly coming out. Right? His chest and his abdomen were same level.
Each limb was bare or hairless. Each limb which was bare and or hairless was very luminous and shining.
His color was shining.
There was no hair on his noble abdomen or breast. He had wide palms.
Wide palms, large.
He had moderately long fingers.
Long fingers.
He had a high sole, i.e., the middle part of the foot, which does not touch the ground when one walks.
Like our African brothers, they don't have any gap under this one. They have a flat, like them flat slippers. Their soles are like them flat slippers. But the Nabi Pak Sallallahu soles were not flat and straight. They had a little bit of gap in the middle. This is where Clark's shoes are very good, because they have a cushion in the middle and you can, relax between them as well. So Nabi Pak Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam's feet and soles were like that.
There were no cracks or splits in his feet.
Alhamdulillah, his feet were very up to the edge. When we go to Medina Sharif and it's winter, we get cracks on our feet. We have to put Vaseline on. But the Nabi Pak Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam's feet never had cracks in them.
When he poured water on them, it flowed off quickly because they were smooth.
When he would pour water on them, he would slip over it. When we have like Vaseline, the water slips over it. His feet were naturally like that.
When he walked, he lifted his feet with vigor and did not walk like the crowd.
Proud people, they drag their feet. Lazy people. Nabi Pak was not proud, he wasn't lazy. He would walk, he would lift his foot up and then put it. And he would brisk walk. Once Hazrat Maulana Ilyas Sahib Khanalvi Rahmatullah was seen walking back and forth. Someone asked him, Hazrat, everybody is sleeping, what are you doing? And then yesterday I read in Shamaa-il Tirmidhi the manner of the walk of Nabi Karim Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. So I'm trying to practice his walk so I can walk like him. So Nabi Pak Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, he would lift his feet up when walking, and he would walk with humility, and he would walk fast. He wouldn't walk slow. He was a very brisk walker. And Abu Huraira was young, but he would say when we would be walking with Prophet, we would be short of breath, and he would be walking normal. So he had a special way of walking as well. So that is mentioned over here. Chaliye.
He walked towards the direction he was heading in with tranquility and dignity.
Tranquility, smoothness, and dignity is chaliye.
He did not strike his sandals on the ground or drag his feet.
Chaliye.
He had a wide gait. He looked at the earth more than he looked at the sky.
He would look, down more than looking up, right? He would walk while he's looking down. He would only look up when it's needed. Otherwise, he had a very nice composure in his walk. In one riwayat, it is written, "Yamshi hawnan, zari al-mishya." He would walk with calmness, and he was swift in walking. So uska tarjuma yahan kiya hai. Chaliye.
Most of his glances were with the part of the eye towards the temples, which when he was not speaking.
When he would just casually look at someone, he would just look like this from the side of his eyes. And then he would look down, and when he was not speaking, or when nobody had called him over. If somebody called him, he would turn fully towards them. But if nobody had called him and he needed to look, he would just look up and then look down. Okay?
When he walked with his companions, he made them walk ahead of him. He was the first to greet whom he met.
When he walked with the Sahaba, he would let them walk ahead of him. Okay? And he would say, leave my back for the Malaika, because Malaika accompany me. So leave behind me for the Malaika, you walk ahead of me. You wouldn't want many people walking behind you, like some people have that habit. Right? He would only have one or two person walking with him when he went out, maybe for his for some need. He would keep Anas radiallahu anhu or Ibn Masud radiallahu anhu with him. Otherwise, he would go wherever he wanted on his own. He wouldn't like having a large gathering following him and going behind him.
He once wore a red garment.
He was the first to greet whom he met. If he met someone, he would say Assalamu alaikum. He wouldn't wait for them to say salam. He would rush ahead with Assalamu alaikum.
He once wore a red garment on a moonlit night. The person looking at him asserted that he was more luminous than the moon.
This is Jabir ibn Samura radiallahu anhu who said this.
It was as though he had been made of silver. His blessed face.
Silver is shining. He was also extremely shining.
His blessed face was not glaringly bright or long like a sword, but rather it was luminous like the moon. The prophets ﷺ were presented to him while he was awake or in a dream in their original appearances. Our master Ibrahim al-Khalid, it was as though a light emanated from the gap between his incisors.
This is the first chapter completed. What do we understand from this chapter? That Nabi Karim sallallahu alayhi wasallam was extremely good looking. Allah had made his whole body from head to toe from his head to his toes, his face, his forehead, his eyes, his nose, his mouth, his ears, his cheeks, his beard, his shoulders, and his arms, his fingers, and everything of his body was, to the best and most proportionate manner. This is why Hassan ibn Thabit radiallahu anhu said, وَأَحْسَنَ مِنْكَ لَمْ تَرَ قَطُّ عَيْنِي وَأَجْمَلَ مِنْكَ لَمْ تَلِدِ النِّسَاءُ خُلِقْتَ مُبَرَّأً مِنْ كُلِّ عَيْبٍ كَأَنَّكَ قَدْ خُلِقْتَ كَمَا تَشَاءُ. More haseen and good looking than you, my eyes have not seen. And more attractive and gorgeous than you, no woman has given birth to. You were created free from all blemish, as though you were created the way you wanted to be created. Allah asked you first, how do you want your nose? How do you want your ears? How do you want your forehead? How do you want your chest? How do you want your whole body? Then Allah created you. This is Hassan ibn Thabit radiallahu anhu saying this. So, in Mawahibul Ladunniya, Durkhani rahmatullah alayhi said, اعلم أن من تمام الإيمان به صلى الله عليه وسلم الإيمان بأن الله تعالى جعل بدنه الشريف على وجه لم يظهر قبله ولا بعده مثله. Know that it is from the perfection of belief that a person believes that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made the body of his Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam in such a manner that it was not made for anyone before him and nor for anyone after him. In Qasida al-Burda, البوصيري رحمة الله عليه said, فهو الذي تم معناه وصورته ثم اصطفاه حبيبا بارئ النسم منزه عن شريك في محاسنه فمظهر فجوهر الحسن فيه غير منقسم. Hazrat Anas radiallahu anhu said, كان رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم أحسن الناس وأجود الناس. He also said, كان أحسنهم خلقا وأحسنهم خلقا. So this is the beauty of Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The reality is, when you see someone who is very nice, good looking, then you do feel, attracted to them. You do feel like sitting with them, listening to them, obeying them. This is why Allah made His Prophet good looking from the outside as well. So Sahaba could sit with him. They would love to sit with him and interact with him. And then his inner features inside akhlaq, we'll read about them later on, about his akhlaq and manners. He was beautiful, the best outward and the best inward. And his akhlaq were beautiful, exemplary. We'll read them later on. So this first chapter about Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wasallam's external features now come to a close. We move on. Chaliye.
Concerning the seal of prophecy.
Maulana Sahib, shall we continue? What time is Dhuhr Salah? 1 बजे है, बस तुम 1:45 बजे छुट्टी कर लेंगे 15 मिनट पहले, ठीक है ना? क्या ख्याल है? अरे एक काम करो यार, इसके लिए चार्जर ले आओ कहीं से, जब इसकी बैटरी रन आउट हो जाएगी। मानो रहीम साहब कुछ बंदोबस्त कर सकते हैं? जज़ाकल्लाह खैर। चलिए जी, नेक्स्ट चैप्टर पढ़ो।
Concerning the seal of prophecy, located on the back of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was a physical seal, pattern, a piece of reddish flesh which resembled a pigeon egg or the button of a tent.
Okay, concerning the seal of the prophecy, right? We've read about the beautiful external features of Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Now, there was a slight lump on the back of Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Imam Tirmidhi is trying to explain what that was. This was nothing against the beauty of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Rather, he was something important. He was mentioned in the previous scriptures that when the last prophet will come, he will have this lump on his left shoulder blade on his back, and it will be a sign of Khatmi Nabuwwat. Okay, nobody over here has that on their back. We're all, normal, but and that does not appear at the back on human beings. What was this? When Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam was young, 5 years old, and he was with Hazrat Halima Sadia at her place growing up. You remember Shaqul Sadr happened. Two angels came, they opened his chest, took his heart out, and there was one root to it. They blocked that and then put it back. And they said, this was the entrance of shaitan in your heart, which you have blocked. Shaitan cannot enter your heart. And after this, he grew up in the best possible manner, with the best possible akhlaq and manners behavior. He didn't have any of those bad habits which normal children have when they cry for their toys and they have that, bad habits in them. The Nabi Pak Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam grew up in the best possible manner. When this Shaqqu Sadr was done, that is the time it said that that lump appeared directly in front of the heart on the left shoulder blade. And it was written in the previous scripture in Tawrat, Zabur, Injil, among the signs, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe 100 signs. So one of the signs was that he will have this lump on his back, and that will be a sign of his Khatmi Nubuwwat. So this is why Imam Tirmidhi rahmatullah alayhi is mentioning the Khatmi Nubuwwat there. So located at the back of the Prophet ﷺ was a physical seal, khatam. Khatam means, khatam means seal. When you register a parcel and it's all closed, the envelope, parcel is locked, closed, everything completed, finally the post office put a seal on it. Also, when you go to a solicitor, you make a deed or something, when everything is finalized, the solicitor stamps it and seals it. That's the last action that happens. So on Nabi Pak Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam's back, there was this seal of that prophethood. Allah had put it there to show that he is the last and final prophet. A physical seal, a khatam, a piece of reddish flesh, which resembled a pigeon egg. Now, pigeon is small, its egg is also small. Chicken is big, so its egg is big. Ostrich is large, gigantic, so its egg is gigantic as well. So pigeon's egg is small, so this was also a small piece of flesh appearing on his back. Or like the button of a tent. When they make tent, the button is not small like our jubbah's button. It has to be a large button to hold the tent. So it was like that size. The Sahaba mentioned their own understanding of the size of it. Some mention other stuff as well, like we'll read. Chaliye.
It had a few hairs around it. It was located between his shoulders or a little towards the left side.
A little towards the left shoulder blade.
There were some molds on it like chickpeas or smaller. Whoever could see it, because it was one of the signs of prophecy in Nubuwwah in previous scriptures. Sayyidina Salman radiallahu anhu and others saw it and then brought faith.
They checked for it. Has he got that or no? They saw that yes, it is there. Then they've seen all the signs. This is one sign which was left. We'll read another Salman radiallahu anhu incident. Very long story. Imam Tirmidhi didn't mention it, but Hazrat Shaykh Zakaria rahmatullah alayhi in his Shamaa-il Nabawi mentioned it. And this reminds me, Shamaa-il Nabawi is beautiful commentary of Shamaa-il Tirmidhi. And it's translated in English by some ulama from South Africa. But there was some things missing in there and some poetry translation missing in there. Maulana Abdul Mufti Abdul Subhan Saheb Dalwi, who is the author of When Desire Takes Over, translated it again, retranslated it, and it's being published by Turath Publication. It's just come out into the market now. Might be a bit expensive because it's a bit thick. But if you can buy that, take it, buy it. It's available from the Academy. Buy it. The whole story is mentioned in that Khulasatul Shama'il. Shamaa-il Nabawi. One part in there is when Hazrat Salman Farsi radiallahu anhu saw Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam in Medina Sharif, he realized that it is the Prophet. But he wanted to check him out. So what did Salman Farsi radiallahu anhu do? One day, he took a little bit of some food or something, which his master had. He was a slave. So whatever his master had given him, he took that, he brought it to Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he said, this is sadaqah. So Nabi Pak sallallahu alaihi wasallam didn't eat from there. He gave it to the Sahaba, eat it. After a few days, he came back and he said, with some more food, and he said, this is hadiyah, gift. And Nabi Pak sallallahu alaihi wasallam himself ate from there as well, and the Sahaba also took part in there. He said, this is one sign. Because it was written in the scriptures that the last prophet will not take for himself any sadaqah or charity, but he will accept gifts. So he said, see this. You've seen the other signs as well. There was one sign that he wanted to see this Khatmi Nabuwwat, seal of the prophetry. And Nabi Pak sallallahu alaihi wasallam realized. So he was going around walking, and he realized Nabi Pak sallallahu alaihi wasallam released his shawl, and he saw that Khatmi Nabuwwat, seal of the prophet at the back. And he said, that's it now. And he embraced Islam. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluhu. So this was there. It was written in their previous scriptures. They noted it and they embraced Islam, believed in Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Chaliye aage.
The hair of his head.
We move on to the third chapter now. Ji.
He sallallahu alaihi wasallam let his hair grow long. He would shorten it and at times leave it. Whoever saw him in a particular state described him accordingly. Hence, his hair was seen halfway down his ears or to the earlobes and beyond. Sometimes he distributed his hair into 4 curls, placing 1 curl on either side of each ear. At times, he would let his hair loose at the back without parting it. Previously, he would part his hair.
Nabi Pak sallallahu alaihi wasallam's Mubarak hair, right? He normally had zulfa hair, right? He only shaved in Hajj or Umrah, otherwise he wouldn't shave his head, right? He used to have long hair. Sometimes they would be up to his earlobes, sometimes below the earlobes, and sometimes they would be touching the shoulders. Right? This is the longest amount which is made, not more than, right? Some people keep zulfa hair right behind and then they make, like ladies, totally bante hain, mura banate hain. Right? Like that new footballer, Haaland. Right? That's no good. तो लड़कियों के बाल हैं, there's women. ऐसा नहीं होना चाहिए. Up to the earlobe, below the earlobe, or just on the shoulders. And his hair Mubarak are called Wafra, Limma, Jumma. 3 names for it. There's details for it over there. So, all those sitting over here, when you've read this, try and keep Zulfa Bal. Rakhenge Zulfa Bal, inshallah. Zulfa means long up to the earlobe. Alright? Maybe just below, maybe onto the shoulders. This is Sunnah hair. Right? And this is why we say don't keep funny hairstyles, copying others. Copy your Prophet. This is Sunnah hair. And if you keep them with the intention of Sunnah, you will get sawab for every hair you keep, inshallah. Because you're trying to follow your Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam. And also, for ladies, it is more important to keep long hair. There is one riwayat which says, Subhana man zayyana al-rijala bil-luha wal-nisa'a bil-thawa'ib. This is tasbih of malaika. Farishtas read tasbih in this manner. Paak hai wo zat, jisne insanon ko खूबसूरत बनाया दाढ़ी से और औरतों को खूबसूरत बनाया लंबे लंबे बालों से. Pure is that being who beautified men with beautiful beards and women with long hair and locks. So long hair ladies के लिए सुन्नत है, लंबे बाल रखने चाहिए और उसको काटना नहीं चाहिए गोरियों की तरह से और यहाँ की लोकल लड़कियों की तरह से. छोटे छोटे बाल नहीं करने चाहिए. Don't make them small. Ladies, you should keep long hair. That is beauty for you, and it is recommended. So there is some discussion over here on the hadith of Muslim from Aisha radiallahu anha, but we don't have time for all that. Some other time, inshallah. Chaliye, next bab.
The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam having his noble hair combed.
Yeah.
Sayyidina Aisha radiallahu anha would comb his hair even if she was menstruating. He would oil his head and comb his noble beard thoroughly. He began with the right side. He began every noble thing with the right.
كنت أرجل رأس رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم وأنا حائض. She would comb his hair even if she was menstruating, right? This is to say that the members of the Jewish community in Medina, they used to, take a woman who's on her menstruation as something very bad and something to be, scared, afraid of, and someone from whom you should stay away. They would not interact with her. They would not, sleep with her, and they would not let her touch their utensils, clothes. They would put her in one room, and she would be isolated from her whole family until the menstruation has gone and she is clean, and then she would be allowed back into the house. That was their behavior. But Nabi Pak Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, no. The only thing that's not allowed during menstruation is close intimacy. Other than that, you should stay with everything in the house. There's no togetherness, love, muhabbat. In fact, in some cases, Nabi Pak Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was resting with Salama radiallahu anha, and she felt that the bleeding is coming. She sneaked out of the bedding and got everything ready so that the blood doesn't spread here and there, and covered herself. Nabi Pak Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam noticed it. He said, "Come back and lie down with me. You don't need to sleep separately." So Nabi Pak Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was such a nice person. This is why she is saying that even when I would be on my menstruation, Aisha says, he would call me and say, "Comb my hair." So Aisha would apply oil, massage his head, and then comb his hair. She would like it. She would love to comb his hair. She would make a line in the middle and make two parts of his hair. This is called farq. In the beginning, he used to do sadl because he had long hair. So in the beginning, he used to do sadl. And Shaykh Yunus once showed us how sadl is made. He had long hair as well, Shaykh Yunus. So he took off his topi and he took one part from the right side and all the hair on this left and a little bit over here. Similar to what my friends want over here. But you don't got so long hair. But we make line over here and this one side and the rest of the hair on that side. That's called sadl. And where you have part in the middle and two parts of the hair, that's called farq. And towards the end of his life, Nabi Pak Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam would part in two parts, and one on the right, one on the left. This is more closer to Sunnah because that was his last practice. Sometimes Hazrat Aisha radiallahu anha would make part in the middle and two parts on the side. And from behind, she would keep it straight. There would be no parting in the hair at the back. They would be all straight. So in the middle, they would be on two sides, and at the back, they would be straight. Okay, this is sometimes. Normally, she would make part from the middle and at the back as well. Okay, and this looks beautiful, nice, right? So his hair was nice, long, beautiful, and he would make two parts there. He would oil his head and comb his noble beard thoroughly. He began with the right side, right? When combing, he would comb the right side first, and then he would comb the left side. And he began every noble thing with right. Aisha radiallahu anha said in hadith, "In kana Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam la yuhibbu tayammuna fi tuhurihi idha tatahhara wa fi tarajjulihi idha tarajjala wa fi tana'ulihi idha inta'ala." Aw kama qala. And why did he like starting from the yameen and right? Because right in Arabic is called yameen. Right? And he liked yameen because Ashabul Yameen, ma Ashabul Yameen. And the opposite are called Ashabul Shimal, ma Ashabul Shimal in Surah Al-Waqi'ah. The Jannatis will be Ashabul Yameen, who will be given their certificates in their right hands. And the Jahannamis will be given in the left hand. So he would like doing everything good with his right hand, with his right side. When he would wear right hand first, the right pajama, right side first, shoes, slippers, right shoe, right slipper first, and then left. In every good thing, he would start from the right. In wudu, we wash the right hand first, and then the left. The right foot first, and then the left. So he would love doing good things with the right hand. Those things which are not good, he would do them with the left hand. Right? left first, exiting right first. So this was his sunnah. This is his way of life, right? And we should try and follow that sunnah. The more closer we are to the sunnah, the more beloved we will be to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because Allah loved his Nabi and he chose the best for him. Whatever he did was the best. So we have to do what he did and Allah will love us as well. This is why we have to follow the sunnahs of Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Chaliye aage.
He would not comb it constantly, but rather every other day.
This is, some people in fact, they comb their hair 10 times a day. That should not be there. Everyone looking mirror all the time. This over zenith and over beautifying is no good. This is for women. Why should men spend 2 hours in front of the mirror on Friday night? ये तो लड़कियों की हैबिट है. मर्दों को ऐसा नहीं होना चाहिए. He would comb his hair when he needed it, not all the time. चलिए.
He forbade us from opposing what he did, i.e. he also instructed his companions not to comb every day.
यहाँ क्या लिखा है? وَنَهَانَا أَن نَفْعَلَ خِلَافَ مَا يَفْعَلُ. He forbade us from doing against what he did, opposing what he did. Meaning that he said, you should also avoid combing your hair all the time. Just comb it from time to time when there is need. There is riwayat of Abdul ibn Mughaffal radiyallahu anhu, which says, Naha Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam ani tarajjuli illa ghibban. Ani tarajjul illa ghibban. Gahe, when it's needed, according to the need. Ji.
The fragrant white hair.
His fragrant white hair. Chaliye.
A synopsis of the narrations is that he had white hair in 3 places. At the parting of his head, at the temples, and in between the lower lip and chin.
Yes. We explained this in the first chapter. He
had more in the part in that part than the rest.
Ji.
After applying oil to his hair, the white hair
in the lower lip, chin, lower lip and chin area. This area, he had more white hair in this lower lip. Okay. इसको उर्दू में कहते हैं दाढ़ी बच्चा. This is दाढ़ी and this is the बच्चा. दाढ़ी बच्चा. He had some little bit of hair in there and little bit on the sides. Otherwise, his daddy was all black. Chaliye.
After applying oil to his hair, the white hairs were less visible.
When he would apply oil, the white hair would be less visible.
The total number of white hairs were close to 40.
40. In one riwayat 20, here 40. It's just a brief estimate.
Whoever counted less considered what was in a particular area. His white hair increased in a relatively short period of time.
Very quickly. He became white very quickly. Otherwise, towards earlier life, he didn't have it. Towards the end of his life, they increased very quickly.
Due to surah such as
شَيَّبَتْنِي هُودْ وَأَخَوَاتُهَا وَالْوَاقِعَةُ وَالْمُرْسَلَاتُ. These surahs made me go grey because Qiyamah is mentioned in there. Qiyamah, Day of Judgment, is scary. If you read these surahs with proper understanding, meaning Allah's, azab and his pakar and his, Caesar of the people of the past. When you read all those accounts, then you start trembling. This is why he used to read these surahs. He would tremble out of fear, and that's what made him go great.
Due to surahs such as Hud, Al-Waqi, Al-Mursalat, and other similar surahs which mention the different stages of the hereafter and the punishment which befell the previous nations. His pure hair dye. It is said he dyed his white hair using henna.
He dyed his white hair using henna. The
opposite has also been said.
In this chapter, Imam Tirmidhi has mentioned 4 hadiths, and there is a difference of opinion in there. One is lam yakhdib. He did not dye the hair. Most ulama say this. Tirmidhi also leans towards this. In Durr Mukhtar, it is written in Nahul Asah. Shami said, لأنه لم يكن عليه إلا 17 شعرة بيضاء. Because he only had about 17 to 20 white hair, and that doesn't need any dyeing. So he did not dye. Number 2, Al-Bayjuri al-Shafi'i Sharih al-Shama'il lean towards that he did put some dye occasionally. Hazrat Shaykh Rahmatullah said, perhaps these different riwayat are due to mukhtalif ahwal. هو مختلف أحوال. In some حالات he did apply a little bit of dye, but that was not black in color because he forbade black dye. It was other color, dark reddish or dark brown color. That is okay. The masala over here is al-khidab mustahabun in al-Hanafiyya. Dyeing white hair is mustahab according to Hanafiya's madhab. Like Mufti Taqi Usmani Sahab, he's got orange beard. So it's mustahab, desirable. It's no wajib, it's no farad, and it's mustahab, desirable. Amma al-aswad fa makruhun. Black khidab is makruh. Hanafi madhab. وعند الشافعية الخضاب سنة والأسود حرام. Shafi'iyya say khidab, dyeing is sunnah and black color is haram. Okay, this is Shafi'iyya mazhab. Hanafiyya mazhab is dyeing itself is mustahab and black is makruh. Severely disliked. Avoid black because of the hadith of Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anhu's father. When he embraced Islam and he was brought to Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his head and his beard was like a white flower. Sughama. Nabi Pak sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, غيروا هذا وجنبوه السواد. Change this color and avoid black color. Because of his word جنبوه السواد, ulama say we should avoid black in color. Other than the dyes are allowed. Okay, dye henna was used, henna, like ladies use for mehndi. So mehndi, red color, dark reddish color is okay. You get some dyes in chemist, dark brown color and this color. That will also be allowed as well. Just avoid pure black. Anything other than pure black would be allowed. Anything closer to a similar, dark brownish color, dark reddish color, that would be okay. This is for both men and women. Chaliye.
He use of coal. He had a coal bottle from which he applied coal every night before going to sleep 3 times in each eye. He commanded us to do this and encouraged the use of ifnit. He said it clears the sight, i.e. increases its light, and makes the hair, i.e. eyelashes grow.
إنه يجلو البصر وينبت الشعر. सुरमा लगाना आंख में मुस्तहब है. इसमें आंख का भी फायदा और इत्तिबाए सुन्नत का भी सवाब. Apply surma, benefit for the eye and sawab of ittibae sunnah. Shaykh Yunus Saheb rahmatullahi alayhi said, रात को लगाना बेहतर और मुफीद है. To apply surma at night is better and beneficial. Because Nabi Pak sallallahu alayhi wasallam had a mukhula in which he would keep surma, and from that bottle he would apply 3 on the right eye and 3 on the left eye. He would start with the right and put 2 in there, and then the left and put 3 in there, and then put 1 more in the right. So he would start with the right and end with the right by applying 3 and 3 times in both eyes. And he said, إِنَّهُ يَجْلُ الْبَصَرِ. If you use the right surma, like the ismit, might be a bit expensive, but you use that ismit surma, it increases and benefits the eyes because it cools down the eyes, and probably will bring more blood circulation into the eyes, and it will protect from maybe cataracts and glaucoma and these things. It increases the eyesight and it grows the eyelashes. His eyelashes were not big, like we read in the first chapter, so he grows the eyelashes as well. Chaliye?
He sallallahu alayhi garments. His favorite garment was the khamis, long shirt. His sleeves reached the wrists. The buttons would sometimes be unfastened, and the placket was at the front by his chest.
The opening, the placket, or the front by his chest. Not like doctors at the back. But his clothes covered from the front, they tied from behind. That was not like his placket opening was from the front.
He also wore dyed.
In this chapter, Hazrat Imam Tirmidhi rahmatullahi has mentioned 16 hadiths. Okay. Now, this is about his clothing. Just want to say a little bit about clothing, right? One is wajib, and that is satrul awrah, covering the satr. Number 2 is mandub, and that is mustahabbahu shar'u. What Shariat has said is mustahab, مثل البياض للجمعة والجديد للعيد, like white color for Friday and new clothing for Eid. And number 3 is makruh. Makruh libas is ما رغب الشرع بتركه مثل المعصفر وما فيه تشبه. That which Shariat has said we should avoid, like the orangish color, saffron color, or in which there is tashabbuh and resemblance of others. That would be makruh. And number 4, haram, that is silk for men, which is not allowed for men. Silk is allowed for women only. Pure silk is not allowed for men. So these are 4 types of libas. Wajib, which is covering the satar. Mustahab, what Shariat has said, mustahab, of covering the whole body, right? And the arms as well, forearms, upper arms, is covering mustahab, like the qamis of the Prophet, which we just read now. I'll go over the hadith again. And number 3, makruh, where Shariat said don't wear this. Okay? Nabi Pak said regarding libas, لا ينبغي هذا للمتقين. Muttaqeen should not wear this. And in other place he said, إنما هذا من زي المشركين. This is the attire of mushrikeen. لا تلبسهما. Don't wear these 2 clothes. So there are some clothing which he disliked, and he said, don't wear this. That's makruh. And 4th is haram, and that is silk for men, which is allowed for wearing. Now, his favorite garment was qamis, long shirt. Okay? And his long shirt reached half of his shin. Okay? So it was below his knees and up to the half of his calves, shin. He wouldn't go right down to his ankles. Right? We are allowed to wear it as low as the ankles, but what is not allowed is to let it loose below the ankles. If the qamis goes below the ankles, then that will be called isbal. And isbal is severely makruh. Makruh tahrimi. We should avoid isbal of the jubba and qamis as well. So he used to wear long shirt, and his sleeves reach the wrist. Where did they reach? Below, up to here, the wrist. So we should cover this forearm and upper arm. Okay. Some people say, "यार नमाज तो हो जाती है इसमें." Maulana Bilal Sahab, Hafizahullah said yesterday in his bayan, भाई नमाज तो यार इससे भी हो जाती है. And if your chest is open, still namaz ho jayegi, because satar is only from navel to knees, right? So keep your chest open as well. Why don't you keep your chest open? You want to cover it, so cover your upper arms and forearms as well. Wear the sunnah libas of Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wasallam when coming to the masjid. خُذُوا زِينَتَكُمْ عِنْدَ كُلِّ مَسْجِدٍ. This is the sunnah libas. His sleeves reach the wrists. The buttons would sometimes be unfastened. And sometimes, occasionally, when he was feeling hot, he would unfasten his button. This is to mention one hadith that one Sahabi entered, and Nabi Pak was sitting in a very relaxed and simple manner, like normal people, and his buttons were unfastened. And he was just, I don't know, something happened to him. But from then on, he never fastened his buttons. Throughout his life, he kept his buttons open. Because of that special moment in which he saw the Prophet ﷺ that kept in his mind, appearing in his mind, and he kept his buttons unfastened all the time. So based on that, he said over here, sometimes they would be unfastened. And the placket was at the front by his chest. He also wore dyed garments from Yemen, which were patterned and contained red and were coarse textured. He would place them on his shoulders. Okay, over here, Shaykh Yunus or the Shaykh Rahmatullah said that his qamis was long and short. Why did he like qamis? One riwayat is Kana habba thiyab ila Rasulullah qamis. He said, number 1, because qamis se badan achhi tarah dhakta hai. With qamis, the whole body can be covered beautifully. That's why he liked long robe qamis. Number 2, isme kapda kam kharch hota hai. It uses less cloth. Whereas in large sheets, you need more cloth. So in qamis, less cloth is used. And number 3, isme takabbur paida nahi hota. When you wear qamis, it doesn't bring pride in your heart. Whereas if you wear other flashy clothes, you might feel a little bit of pride in yourself. And number 4, isme tajammul or zinat hai. there is tajammul, beautifying, and zinat in qameez. That's why he used to wear it. Another point to note over here is that he wouldn't wear different clothes for night dress, nighty. Yeah, night is different. Prophet ﷺ would only wear one qameez and he would sleep in that qameez as well. At most, he would take it off when he would want to go to sleep, but he wouldn't have different clothing for the nights, for morning, for this occasion, that occasion. Chaliye.
He would place them on his shoulders. When he wore a new garment, he would say, and he would name it and say, اللهم لك الحمد كما كسوتنيه أسألك خيره وخير ما صنع له وأعوذ بك من شره وشر ما صنع.
This is a dua of wearing new clothes.
His favorite garment included those which were made of striped cotton or linen, tibara, which were adorned and beautified. He wore a red garment and also wore a green mantle, i.e. a garment with green stripes.
He wore a red garment and also wore a green mantle, green chadar, with garment with green stripes. On a garment with green stripes. Not pure green, which is attractive, but a garment with green stripes and red stripes on them. What is the hukum of wearing red garment? There is mukhtalif aqwal in there. I'll just mention what Hazrat Gangohi Rahmatullah Alayhi said. Hazrat Maulana Rashid Ahmad Gangohi Rahmatullah Alayhi said, मर्द के लिए फतवा की रूह से जायज है, तकवा की रूह से तर्क करना औला है कि उलमा में मुख्तलिफ ही है. Red color is allowed for ladies, no problem. They can wear any color they like. But for men, red color from fatwa side might be allowed, from taqwa side should be avoided. What we are talking about is bright red color. Okay, slightly reddish, maroonish color or red stripes. That is different. We are talking about bright red color. So there are about 8 aqwal in there, which Shaykh has mentioned in Shamaa-il Nabawi. Hazrat Gangohi Rahmatullah's opinion is, very clear. It would be allowed. We wouldn't say red garment is haram. If it's too flashy, there'll be karahat in there, makruh in there, right? Avoid it. Don't wear United and Liverpool shirts. Especially not to the masjid. चलो फुटबॉल खेलने जा रहे हो तो समझ में आ गया फुटबॉल खेल के आए निकाल दिया लेकिन मस्जिद में ऐसे शर्ट पहन के नहीं आएगा there's devil on there so shaitan or red devil shirt. Bright red color should be avoided by men. Okay, easy. All bright colors, whether bright red, bright yellow, bright orange, these are for ladies, not for men. Men should avoid them. One riwayat said, "Tibur rijal ما ظهر ريحه وخفي لونه وطيب النساء ما ظهر لونه وخفي ريحه." The beauty of men is in that where the fragrance emanates but the color is hidden, and the beauty for women is where the fragrance is hidden but the color appears and looks nice and beautiful. So Allah Pak has compensated them both, men and women, and giving you instruction guidance for both. So we should avoid bright colors. This is the aim.
He also wore
and bright green should be avoided as well. So that if it's dark green or green stripes, there's no harm in there.
He also wore threadbare.
Not very bright, attractive, flashy green color.
He also wore threadbare clothing. He sometimes dyed his clothes with saffron.
And this is sometimes dyed his clothes with saffron. हज़रत शेख रहमतुल्लाह अलैह से लेकिन ज़ाफ़रान का असर बाकी नहीं रहता था. He dyed it, but when washing, the color was kacha, so the color faded away. It was very light color. This is one explanation. Number 2, Hazrat Shaykh Yunus Saheb said 2 things. Number 1, يمكن أن هذا قبل الممانعة. It is possible that this happened before prohibition. Because Qayla saw this, the narrator of the hadith, in the beginning, but towards the end of his Madani life, he forbade saffron color. And he said, don't use saffron color, avoid that saffrani color. Saffrani color is bright orange. That's not for men. He saw one Sahabi whose clothes were colored with usfur, saffronic color. And he was really angry. He said, take this off. This is not for muttaqin. Wear something else. So he forbade it. So how could he wear it when he's forbidden it? Number two, Hazrat Shaykh Yunus Sahib says, शायद कैला को इश्तिबा हो गया. It is possible that Kaila was a bit confusing the color. It was not colored with saffron, might have been something else, but slight, slight color of that time, and she thought that it's been colored with saffron, whereas in reality it was not saffron, it was something else, or a little bit of light, yellowish or orangish color in there, but it was not bright color which would attract from a distance. So maybe that was Sheikh. Over here, Shaykh Zakaria Rahmatullahi discussed about nafis and good-looking clothing. Should we wear nafis clothes or not? He said, yes, if Allah has given you, you should wear nice clothes. Have a good appearance of yours, wear nice clothes. That Sharia recommends wearing nice clothes. Chali?
However, most of his clothes were white, and he commanded us to wear white and use it for our burial shawls. He also wore.
He said in the hadith, البسوا من ثيابكم البياض وكفنوا فيها موتاكم فإنها أطيب وأطهر. Wear white clothes and give kafan to your deceased in white clothes, because they are more cleaner and they look more pleasant and beautiful. Chaliye?
He also wore garments made of black wool. He wore a
black wool. This is when in winter. There were times in winter when in Medina Sharif it's really cold, chilly. So he wore garments made from black wool. Chaliye?
He wore a Roman jubba with narrow sleeves.
This is in the hadith of Mughira ibn Shu'bah in Tabuk. When he went to Battle of Tabuk, he was gifted a Roman jubba by someone. Meaning it was made by the Romans. They used to wear that Roman robe as well. So he wore that Roman jubba and the sleeves were tight. He tried to do wudu and roll them up, but he couldn't. So he pulled his hand out from beneath, and then he put the thumb on his shoulder, and then he washed his hands. And same with the other sleeve as well. So he wore that type of Roman jubba as well. Now, this shows that we can wear, clothes made by disbelievers, and we don't have to wash them when we wear them first time, provided there is no visible najasat on there. Right? So you wear them first time, as soon as you buy them, you put them on, you're allowed to wear them. Okay? Unless if there was some visible najasat on there, then you would have to wash it, make it back. Other than that, also it shouldn't be some special cloth of some of their rituals or something like that. Avoid that. Okay? Other than that, any cloth, jubba, made by non-Muslim, or most of our jubbas are made by Chinese. They come from China. The Fan or Sealan, Shia Khan, whatever. So with no problem if kuffar make it, we can wear whatever they have made. Okay? But make sure your libas is according to the sunnah of Nabi Kareem Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, which we have explained above, that he used to wear qameez, which was long, covering his whole body, up to the half of his shins or calf, and the sleeve would be up to his wrist. Chaliye, aage his khuf, leather socks. I think we'll break it over here. Give 15 minutes, 15 hours. What do you say, Maulana Raheem sir? Break it? Okay. When will the next session start?
Inshallah, Salah is at 1 o'clock. Inshallah, after Salah, proper Salah will start late. Okay. The ready-made tea there as well, inshallah, will serve. Everyone needs to go for wudu. Wudu khana upstairs, here. There's very less toilets here. You can go downstairs to the main wudu khana, inshallah. And anyone who doesn't need the toilet, you can also samosas, some kebabs here. Just help yourself, inshallah.
Also, I just understand properly. Next session you start at 150. आप कब तक चलेगा? और खाना पीना? अच्छा खाना असल बात है। अरे यार भूख अभी लगी है तो असल बात खिलाओगे? अच्छा चलो बिल्कुल सब खिलाओ।